from the get-go. It's like painting portraits of chicks or stuff wasn't interesting to me. It's a bit limited, you know, and I could do it. I can paint my friends, I can paint a landscape, but something was missing. One day, my father-in-law, you know, Patricia's father was like, hey, you know, you should check out, if you like cowboys, could have this cowboy hat. And he's like, if you like cowboys, you should check out the Hall of Fame in town, and you like it. I'm face to face that Jim Reynolds painting Arizona Cowboy, the cowboy with the pink shirt and the pink clouds, and it's like a revelation. It's like, hallelujah.
So I have Mark Maggiori on today. We've already been chatting a bit. We were talking about how busy you are, and you said, yeah, no, I'm a painter. Every painter is busy. So, but you're busier than most.
I don't know about that.
Well, the funny thing about you, you know, is that if I want to know what's cooking, I just go to your Instagram site, because every day you have a great story and there's always something interesting. I feel like I'm there, right? Every time I want to know what's going on with Mark, I just go, okay, let's see what's happening on Instagram.
Well, I take advantage of that platform because it's pretty awesome to, you know that I really take it as it's like the new TV for people. You know, like people used to just be in front of a TV changing channels. And I think it's the same now with Instagram. People, you're just a channel for them. And so they want to go on Western Art Channel, they're going to check on the different painters they like, and you're one of them. So I'm trying to make my channel interesting and making sure when they go on my channel, they follow, you know, different adventures that are going on. What's up with my daughter? What's up with my painting? What's up with my truck? What's up? You know, it's whatever. It doesn't have to be, you know, insane. It's just, I know some people just like to check it out and I like to share it. It's pretty cool. It's pretty simple, and it doesn't require any work from me to be present. I sometimes talk with some friends of mine that are less active, and they're like, oh, it's such a work, and it's like, you know, I can't follow up with it. And I'm like, I don't know, I don't feel it this way. I mean, it's very easy for me to just, you know, do a shot of my palette, do a shot of this, do, you know, and yeah, it's just pretty natural. So yeah, I'm very grateful for it.
Yeah, well, not only that, but it's very intimate. I mean, that channel is intimate. I feel like when I'm watching it, I'm getting an unbiased, unfiltered view of you, what you're doing in your life, your family, your joys, all that kind of stuff. So, you know, I don't know if everybody can do. I can't do. I mean, I guess this is as close as I can come to doing it. But you know, you do it every day, and you've got what, 150,000 followers now?
Mm-hmm.
And I've had people
Yeah, it starts to represent some people.
Yeah. Well, I think it's very smart in a lot of ways to just to be able to sell your prints and your drawings. You know, I've had many people contact me, you don't even know this, but they say, hey, I watch Mark on the Instagram and I like his stuff. Well, you know, should I get a painting? And I say, you know, he puts up these intimate little drawings. I said, when you have an opportunity, buy one of those or buy one of the prints. I said, that's a great way to be able to connect to him. The drawings are, you know, original art, and it's not as like trying to get one of your paintings now, because you've kind of blown up in the art world here, has become very difficult. And, you know, if somebody says, well, I just want to get a painting, well, that's, you know, take a number, right?
Yeah, it's sometimes difficult for me to communicate about that, as I receive a lot of messages of people that are coming with all their, like, you know, a simple, hey, I get painting, I love it. How do I go with that? And I'm like, it's not as easy. You just don't send money and you get the painting. Unfortunately, it's not as easy as that. So you get a contact, maybe a gallery, or maybe in a couple of years you can be in a draw. Yeah, it's a little difficult, but it's just, yeah, there's nothing I can do to make this better. That's why I'm doing the prints, because the prints are, you know, an easier way to satisfy a lot of people, to just put the art on their walls. And you know, I know some collectors are attached a lot bigger value to an original, and I understand that. I mean, we all wish we had originals in our houses, but you know, not everybody can afford. I don't have originals of painters alike. Yeah, it's a good way to start, and yeah, maybe later they'll be able to afford a painting, or to get lucky to be drawn in one of the sales. But yeah, it's a whole thing.
Yeah, no, and it's not even being able to afford it. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that can afford it, but they can't get it because, they got to go through an auction or they have to, a box draw, which is fine. I mean, that's how it should be. No, if your paintings are so desirable, which they are, that's the way it's going to be. But, as I tell them, the people who contact me, which seems to be quite often, is, try to get one of these cool little drawings or a print, or sometimes you've even done little paintings too. And I think some of those are just magnificent. I've even thought about getting one of those just because I like them. Yeah, I know. No, I'm dead serious. They're cool. That loose stuff that you do is really great. First time I met you, I told you that. And and I still believe that, quite frankly.
It's true.
Not much you can say to that, right? So yeah, I get it. So you've got this circuitous route to getting to America, which is really interesting, which sets you apart, I think, from really about almost any artist I can think of. I mean, you're the Henry Farney of this generation. So I'd like to just talk a little bit about that, right? Oh, yeah, and in fact, your paintings prices are up there with Farney now. So you were born and raised in France, right?
Yeah,
Fontainebleau. You were born in
Fontainebleau, exactly.
yeah. Tell me how you say it. Fontainebleau? No.
Fontainebleau.
Yeah. And so
Fontainebleau.
yeah, and so you grew up, and how many people were in your family?
I got two siblings. I have a brother and a daughter, and a sister. Sorry.
Yeah. And yeah. What did your dad do? What was he doing? And
my dad is he's a writer, philosopher, in the European sense of it. And he was teaching philosophy, and he was writing in a big newspaper called Libération. That's his life. He's just, and now he's doing conferences all over. It was about philosophy and all. He's in this kind of like group of people doing conferences all over France, and so that keeps him busy. He's 74, but he's just doing that all the time. And my mom is a Greekish, Latin, and French teacher. When she retired, and now she's just keeping busy with the town hall in Fontainebleau, and she's involved in cultural things a lot. And yeah, both my parents are super active. It's like just pulsing nonstop. Like I don't know what's gonna stop them. Probably the age, maybe at some point, but not yet.
Is your dad a significant kind of a big deal in his field? I mean, is he,
Yeah, he's very respected. I don't know, how famous fame means anything, but he's respected by that niche of like thinker, and he was he was writing every Thursday in that newspaper for, I don't know, 30 years, 40 years. Wow. And so yeah, he had a lot of people following him through his articles. He was a critique of, like, all the books they're releasing, philosophy and all that. He would write the critique on the book, and his reviews were pretty famous for that. Yeah. So yeah, but yeah, he's been writing. He also wrote a couple of books, and so yeah, he's pretty great in his field, like, for sure. It's always been very impressive for me. Hearing him talking, it's just always like, I always wish I could have get more of his knowledge. But I guess it's hard to transmit that kind of knowledge. It's not like painting. You can just take a couple of classes and you get the skills eventually. But philosophy, and it's like, it's so vast. Like, it's, decades of studying and all that. So I would never get any closer to where is that.
It must have affected you too, though, in a lot of ways. That kind of, that's deep thinking. Philosophy is take your time, think about all the different elements, put it together,
Mhm.
and then go with it, right? I mean, that sums you up in a weird way, right?
Yeah, I think mostly it's about being serious in what you're doing. And my parents always been kind of, I mean, especially my dad, but they have always been like this a hard view on what we're doing as kids, and like and you know, some expectation to like do something great, and I just fuck around. And when because I was in music initially, as you know, in a band, and when I was 17, I remember my dad took me to there's a street in Paris with all those guitar shop, and I wanted, you know, to get a guitar, and I was with him in that street. And there's a bunch of old dudes, you know, with leather jacket and gray long hair, almost like me now. And my dad, I remember, told me, he's like, "Well, I hope you're not gonna end up like that." And it was like, oh shit. So I was like, okay, if I make music, it has to be successful. It has to be something. I can just like play music and hope for a small gig here and then. So yeah, I met my band and we became famous. We signed with Sony, and you know, we played like 10,000 people venues. There was no other way around. It had to be successful. And the same with art. It's like, you know, when I wanted to, you know, make art, it was like you have to do a great school and make something serious out of it. And that's why I went to the Académie Julian in Paris, and from there I decided to study painting, but really going for it and study art and becoming good at it. And so yeah, it's always been about, you know, no, not bullshitting things. It's just go deep when you do something and do it good and become good at it. So that probably influenced me for sure in my way of doing things.
Yeah, I think so. And you know, you kind of breezed over. Yeah, we had Sony Records, and you did 100. You sold 100,000 albums, right? Something
A
like that.
bunch, yeah, more than
Yeah,
that probably, but
yeah,
yeah, a
probably
bunch
more
of
than that. I
albums.
mean, you were a big. I mean, you were and still are. You know, to a lot of your fans, a big band was Pleymo, right? Is that how you say it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And is it kind of a metal band, metal rock? I've listened to your music before. You call it metal?
Yeah, it was the wave of 2000. I mean, the late 80s. Uh, you know, after Rage Against the Machine, you know, started that, you know, movement mixing hip hop and metal, and so we were definitely part of that wave. And yeah, I think, yeah, French kids always listen to American music. It's always been like that. You know, everything that comes from America is great, and that's probably from, you know, the 60s, and it's always been like this. So the wind blow this way, and so I was one of those kids, and always, you know, like, but that one day I woke up thinking, shit, if we make a band, why don't we sing in French so people can understand what we're talking about? And I think that was a great idea, because how many bands were in Paris trying to, you know, reproduce Rage Against the Machine and all that? And there was a lot of bands and trying to sing in like pseudo English. Doesn't make any sense, because we were not American. We were not speaking the language properly. And to me, it was like a phony. I was like, it can't work. Like, if we sing in English, what are we talking about? It's just retarded. So I was like, we're gonna sing in French. And so at the beginning, it was like, ugh, it sounds weird, like, you know, because we're used to the American sound in music, and all of a sudden you put French on the lyrics, and it's different, it's unique, and it was hard to accept it, you know, with my bandmates. And I was like, okay, well, that's how we're doing. But then very quickly we realized the impact on people, and kids singing the lyrics, and you know, and like, we got famous so fast. Like, we recorded a little demo, and I was like 20, and we brought that demo to the store, the record store across the street in Paris, and the guy was like, he was blown away. He's like, I'm gonna put this on the station so people can listen, and I'll tell you guys how it goes. And we were so stoked, because we were a bunch of kids. And he called us a week after, and he's like, hey, you know, like, so many people listening and asking what it is. You have more CD? I'm going to sell them. And so we're like, whoa. So we were able to like press like, I don't know, 200 or 300 copies of that demo. And the guy sold them all. And he's like, hey, I want to do a showcase. You guys can play in the store. So we're like, what? And so they planned the show like for like, you know, I don't know, a week after. And we get there the day of the show. We just came with our gears, and there was a line. It was in the Place of the Opera in Paris. There was a line all across the street of like kids like us, like long hair, dreadlocks, and we're like, what are they here for? I guess for us. And we haven't been able to play because the minute we started, it was the biggest mosh pit in the store. All the stuff started to fall apart, and so the security stopped us, and we couldn't play. We haven't been able to play. That was really funny. But so that's how it pretty much started, and then from there, you know, we got signed with big labels, and we toured everywhere. But and a lot of other bands starting to do the same. We encourage people to sing in French because it made a huge difference for the fans. Because, you know, of course you would idolize American bands more. You know, if we'd play with Korn, they would be more for Korn because you're from America. But with us, it was the heart because they understood what we were talking about, and we were talking about stuff that they were relating to. So that was the key of it, and it was cool. And then we spent 10 years playing and recording albums.
And going all over the place, right? You toured.
Yeah, we toured everywhere but in America. So that's, again, an interesting thing. It's like, you know, American bookmakers, they're not interested in us because they're like, the audience is not ready to listen to something else than American singing, English singing. So it was tough. So because every time we were playing with American bands in Europe, they were like, dude, you guys are the shit. You need to come to America. And we're like, we wish, but I guess we can't. It's just not just us deciding. It has to be a tour. So yeah, that was it.
And you were doing the artwork for your albums and that kind of thing at that time?
Yeah, I was always pushing two careers at the same time. So I was the tricky part is, because when the band started to work well, I was in art school at the Académie Julian, and I had to do my thesis in the last year. And that 1 year we were on tour. So I had one of the craziest years of my life when I would like go play and take a night train or a flight and go back. And at 8 a.m. I was on the class, you know, sketching nudes or, you know, painting stuff. And then at like 4 p.m. I had to go back on a taxi, go to the station, meet the others that were traveling in the same time. But I made it, I had to do it. Like I couldn't give up on none of them. Like I wanted to succeed in art, and I wanted to succeed with the band. Like it was, you know, and my parents were supporting me with the art, and I couldn't fuck up and say, oh no, I give up on the school. And I loved it too. So it was like, I just had to do both. So yeah, I was pushing both. And when I finished school, I started getting jobs as, you know, illustration or music video directing. And, but I was in the band at the same time. But it was cool because I was in the music industry. I knew a lot of people. And so a lot of people would give me jobs because, you know, we were friends. And, you know, at Sony, I did a lot of artwork for a lot of Sony artists because I was there, and that's cool.
What did you do?
And,
what Sony artists did you do? Do you remember which ones you did?
I mean, French artists mostly, nothing American, only French stuff. And I did this very famous hip-hop band called NTM. They were super big back then. I did the whole music video in 3D animation. That was pretty awesome. But also, yeah, I had the opportunity that year to go to America to work for Disney, because I was also a lot relation with Disney, and I did a bunch of internship with Disney at the same time. And when they gave me the opportunity to go, I was too much involved with the band, and I was like, I can't leave France. I had to stay. So I kind of like gave up on that thing, the Disney thing, which I was kind of like over it at a certain point anyway. And a lot of Disney artists told me, you know, don't go. It's like a washing machine. And but I always had a lot of respect for, you know, Disney artists, because there's so many good artists that work for Disney and DreamWorks. And so it's something I wanted to do, but, you know, again, you have to choose paths sometimes. And,
right.
and
do you think part of it was just getting the invitation? You know, you got the offer, you're good enough.
For sure.
You know, and it's like, okay,
100%.
Yeah, no, I get that.
100%.
I totally get that.
I know. Yeah, as soon as I knew they wanted me, I was like, it's fine. I don't need to go.
Yeah, that's all I needed, the affirmation. They wanted me. Now I'm going to go work where I'm making some money.
Definitely. Yeah, probably.
Yeah. So it had to be kind of a weird
Exactly.
dichotomy that, you're clearly have two parts of your brain, the music and the art is obviously very, very important. It has been, but now you're doing this band, which is super successful, and you still want to be an artist, right? So how do you deal with that?
Um, I think it just starting a band when you're 20, it's gonna end. Like it, and I had enough my head on my shoulders to know there's gonna be a time where it's gonna be over. And so I was always enjoying every minute and putting all the energy needed because it was such a great experience. And every show, every time I was feeling so grateful that this was happening, but I knew it was going to end. And so that's why I was always keeping other jobs and keeping relationship with all the people that were giving me jobs back then. And yeah, I was mostly directing music video. After a time, I dropped, illustrations, works, and stuff like that. I was really music videos were fun because I get to travel, and so it was a really good time where I was in the band and then also directing music video when I had free time, and so it was cool. But it's funny because during this whole time, the painting thing, because painting's always been deep in my heart since art school, and but I had no idea that you can make $1 being a painter. Like, to me, I was like, yeah, it's even worse than being a singer in a band. It's like there's no way you can make money being a painter. So I was like, maybe when I'm old, I'll have a house in Provence and I'll just be that guy that's just painting landscapes and whatever. But it was always kind of a dream, of a long-term dream, really long-term. So when I was thinking of the after band, I was imagining myself directing music video and maybe hopefully directing movies. That was what I was hoping to do, is directing movies. So we stopped the band in 2008, and I directed my first feature film in 2010, which we did with my music video company. We produced my movie, and it was a big mistake because we should have go through all the cinema industry to get the fundings and all that, but we thought we were smarter and we wanted to do the movie on our own so nobody can say anything, and then we would sell the movie to distribution. But it didn't work like that. So we did the movie and it was great, but then nothing happened. It was too difficult to enter, find, because it's such a lobby world. Cinema industry is locked. Like, you have to be part of it. You have to know people. You have to be, if you're not in bed with anybody, nothing's gonna happen for you. So it was good for me because I just decided that I was in America here with a movie that was never gonna be sold to anyone. I was fed up of doing music videos, and I had to look at myself and be like, okay, I'm 35. What am I doing in America if I want to stay here? What can I do that would set me apart? What are my strengths? And I'm in front of a mirror, and it's like, well, it's painting, dude. That's always been that thing. You can paint, you gotta have to paint. And yeah, I remember because I did those paintings of Jesus because they were in relationship with the movie I did. And we did like a very independent art show in LA with some friends, and the same time I did the movie, and I did a couple of paintings, and nobody cared because there was a bunch of hipsters that came, and nobody bought anything. I was just paintings on the wall. It was a bit depressing from a painting standpoint. I was like, nobody cares about art. But it's funny because then, like a year after, those paintings were in my house somewhere, in a closet, and we had a party with a bunch of friends, and it's like super late, even early in the morning, and Patricia, my wife's like, yeah, you should show everybody that painting of Jesus. And I'm like, oh, come on, I don't want to show it. And she's like, come on, go get it. And I remember I take it out, and we were on the patio outside. everybody's pretty far out, you know. And I picked painting out, and all my friends are like, what the fuck? The fuck is that? Everybody was blown away, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, shit. And I really take inside of me, I was like, maybe that's the thing I'm supposed to do. Like, why do I keep, like, you know, trying to be a director, trying to be this or this? Maybe I should be a painter, because that's obviously something that I can do that not a lot of people can do.
That's right.
And so I just put back the Jesus painting in a corner, and then slowly that idea kept coming back. But I had a problem, that I didn't know what to paint. And that really was one thing from the get-go. It was like painting portraits of chicks or stuff wasn't interesting to me. I was like, it's a bit limited, you know, and I could do it. I can paint my friends. I can paint a landscape, but something was missing. And that's why I wasn't starting further, because I was like, what do I paint? And so I kept doing my, you know, music videos and stuff, and till the day I was in Oklahoma. And I was already interested in Western culture, because I was taking photos of rodeos, and, you know, so that's something I had, but the two things didn't met. And one day my father-in-law, Patricia's father, was like, hey, you know, you should check out, if you like cowboys, could have this cowboy hat. And he's like, if you like cowboys, you should check out the Hall of Fame in town, and you'll like it. What was that? It's like a museum, you know? So I went on my own, and I get in that room where you have all those pre-West winner thing, and I'm face to face that Jim Reynolds painting, Arizona Cowboy.
Yeah.
The cowboy with pink shirt and the pink clouds, and it's like a revelation. It's like hallelujah. It's like in the Blues Brothers, in the movie Blues Brothers, when like, do you see the light? And I'm here standing, I'm alone, and there's an angel who's like, this is it. This is what you gotta do. And honestly, I stayed 2 hours in that one room, just like I didn't know what the fuck to do with myself. I was like, this is it. This is it. This is the painting I want to do. Like the horses, the light, the clouds, everything is just. It was crazy. And I called my wife's like, hey, the barbecue's ready. What are you doing? I'm like, excuse me, I'm dealing with my life right now. It's like, it's too much. And so yeah, I left that place, and I was like, this is what I need to do. I'm gonna paint the West, because it's insane. Everything in those paintings I love. And so yeah, I started to buy the Western art collector, and you know, went to like, I started buying magazine, going online, starting like Google Western art. And I remember, you know, seeing a lot of like Jim Reynolds. I wrote his name. I started to look his work, and it's just a bulimia, like just looking, just studying, what is it about this? Like, you know, is there a market? Like, who are the people? And so for like a month or two, I was just researching. And then slowly I said, I'm going to just go buy canvas and I'll try to paint cowboy. So see what happened.
Right.
So yeah, I picked a picture on the internet, like a black and white Erwin Smith paint photo, and I just painted it black and white, and I was like so excited. And then I just started snowballing from there. Couldn't stop.
Where were you living at that time? Were you in Chloride or in?
There's been a two-step thing. So by the time I remember exactly when it was, but it was in April when I discovered the museum, and in June we moved out of LA. So in this time from April to June 2013, I told Patricia, so that's when I was doing my research, I was like, let's just leave LA, leave the director thing behind. I'm stopping. I called my producer in France. I said, I'm done. I'm gonna try to change path. And it was really hard. It really went financially. I went down like ever in my life. Like I was honestly living with like $200 on my bank account for times where we were like going to 99-cent store trying to see what do we eat for lunch? I don't know, you know. And it's crazy. But I really took a chance, and Patricia was such a good sport. She, you know, she's like following me when whatever, and because we were directing together too, so it was really risky for her to kind of like, so she decided she was gonna keep stuff on her own, try doing her stuff. But I was like, I'm gonna try the painting thing. So we went back to Arizona to our mom's, and we lived at her mom, and that's where I paint that first black and white painting, was in her mom's shack. And so yeah, I did a couple of paintings there of like some guys that I knew that on horses, and just went take photos of them. And then we took a house in Arizona, so we stayed in Kingman this whole first year, where I started to paint, really 2014, 15, we were in Arizona. And but the first check came pretty quick, so you know, from there gave me a trust to keep going.
Yeah, what was
So
that
yeah,
like?
but it was like
Yeah, I mean, you go from rockstar, Paris, and you know, well known in Europe, to LA. You're doing movies. You're trying to make it in that, you know, that thing, and then you have this amazing epiphany in the Cowboy Hall of Fame, and now you're in Kingman, Arizona. Now, and I've been in Kingman. I know people in Kingman. Nothing against Kingman. They got great boys,
it's
but
Kingman, right?
yeah, but you know, what the hell's that like? I mean, that's a real trippy thing to go from that, from those kind of plateaus to there.
Mhm. Well, it's a bumpy road, and again, it's funny when you look back, and you know, we're always wondering, how did I do this? How did I end up there? But I think for me, there was always that dream of making things and sharing things with the world. And so yeah, just, it's like I kept, you know, it's like you said, some people follow the goose. I just followed that shiny thing out in front of me, and it was always America. And I mean, America was that thing, that glittering thing that I wanted to be part of. And that was, yeah, my dream was America, with the West and all that. Was always something, you know, as a kid. It was skateboard, but it was the West Coast, was LA. I wanted to be, you know, skateboarding in LA, but I was in Fontainebleau, France. So it was very different.
Right.
But in my head, I wanted to be there. So of course, my whole life, it kind of like just followed that road. And yeah, so when I'm in Kingman, even if for some people that are here, it seems like a shitty town, for me, coming from where I come from, I was an hour from the Grand Canyon, and it was the dream.
Yeah, that's
Fucking
true.
loving it. That's it. And the sunset in Kingman,
Yeah.
when you look at the mountain, it's beautiful. So
Yep.
to me, again, I was in, and for my wife, it was weird because she was back to where she escaped from.
Right.
And so it was a hard year for her, where it was like, she was like, what the fuck? Like, because, but for me, it was part of that like long, like ramp that goes up to my dream. It was
Right.
just of step during this whole thing. And I was telling her back then, I was like, we'll go back to LA. You know, we're not gonna stay here if you're not happy here. We'll go back. But you know, give me time to get this going. And right now it's happening here. So we're here. And we went back to LA. So things happened.
And you started right off the bat doing cowboys at that point in time, when you were
Yeah.
painting in Kingman.
Yeah, right away. Because that's really what I wanted to paint. With all the naivety that I have, and the zero knowledge of cowboy culture that I had, which is funny now when I look back. And I started the post thing on Instagram. I started my account back then, and so I had very few followers, but pretty quickly I had like Cowboys followers and stuff. And I would, you know, post stuff with really big mistakes, even in like the tact and, you know, gears and stuff that I had no idea. And I learned the hard way, where people would be like, hey dude, you can't paint that shit. You know, your rope's on the wrong side, or, you know, it's like, you can't do that. You know, what is that saddle? It's crappy saddle. I was like, yeah, I didn't know that. You know, that guy I shot the other day in Kingman, he had that saddle. I know the shitty saddle. But, you know, I just learned. And then it was the same thing with the Native American subject, because of course that's something I always wanted to paint. Is when you like the West and the history of the West, the Native Americans are a huge part of it. but I was really scared to like, because I knew that I really had zero knowledge, like even worse than the white cowboy. And so it took me a long time before I was, how do you say, allowing myself to start painting the Native American subject with everything that it represents in this country, with the history of it. And I'm now doing it because I felt it was a time in my life where I could do it. But I do it with, you know, all the respect and everything that goes with it. So yeah, it was a long learning curve.
Yeah, well, you were smart enough to listen. You know, I think that's the key when you're an artist or anybody, what, you know, even an art dealer, is you got to listen to the people who have more knowledge. And if you're painting the subject
Mm-hmm.
of Native Americans or cowboys and they're giving you good feedback, if you don't pay attention, then you're sunk, right? You have to have
Yeah.
the humility to be able to do that. Clearly you did. And so when you're in Kingman, you're painting for a year, you're starting to do the cowboys, you're starting to figure it out, you're building your Instagram account. How do you find that first gallery? How does that all happen?
Well, again, it's funny is these things always link very naturally. So I was, in all the thousand things I was doing, I was collecting vintage. That's something I've always done because I've always liked vintage clothes since because at 15 or 16, I was already nostalgic of, you know, the skateboard shoes I had when I was 10. So it started with skateboard shoes, Vans, made in
Right.
USA Vans. So at age 16, 17, I was looking for, you know, old Vans, and then, you know, Vans leads you to old denim, old Levi's, and then Levi's leads you to old boots, then boots, cowboy hats. Like, so at 20, I was already like searching for stuff like that all the time. And my first trips to America on my own was like 25, 26. That's all I was after. I was just looking for vintage all the time. Anywhere I was going, collecting vintage. At a certain point, I was living in France. I had to take a storage in Los Angeles as a French man just to get shit stored because I couldn't get enough stuff back to France. So I had a storage in LA and just leaving stuff there, back to France with 2 luggage, pay for extra luggage. And then next time I come back, maybe I grab new stuff. You know, it's just a total madness. Anyway, but that's always doing that. It's like my hobby to just search for old stuff. So at a certain point where we were pretty broke with Patricia, hearing that, you know, a little before I was starting to paint, we decided to sell some of our stuff at the Rose Bowl in LA, the big flea market. So we started doing the Rose Bowl as sellers. You know, it's once a month on Sunday. It was a lot of fun. You wake up at 4 a.m. and, you know, start setting your rack. And funny thing is that we met a lot of awesome people during the time we were doing that. We probably did that for a year. And that was before Kingman, before Arizona. But yeah, we did that, and we met a lot of cool peeps, and we met John Dennis as one of all those cool people. John Dennis is a hat maker. Yes. He has this brand called Sam Roberts LA, he's in Ojai, California now, but he was in LA back then, and we became super friends. He's the coolest dude. And one day, so he was probably one of my first followers on Instagram, and so he's like, dude, I had no idea you were drawing or anything. He's like, that's awesome. You know, I love your stuff. And Red the Rose was like, I know a guy who comes to Rose Bowl sometimes. I sold him a hat. I think he's pretty big in this industry. You should meet him. I was like, yeah, who's that? His name is Logan. And you should link with him. And so John sent a group text to me and Logan. He's like, hey guys, you know, you should check each other out. I'm sure you guys will get along. And I checked his stuff and I thought it was cool, but I don't think I checked enough. I just looked really quickly and I was like, oh, it's cool, and nothing more. And then not even an answer from Logan. So nothing happened for like a month or two. And then one day I received an email from Logan, and he's like, hey, yeah, sorry I didn't respond. I looked at your stuff and it looks very interesting. Do you want to meet me and my brother? We have a gallery in LA. You know, if you can bring like a couple of originals, we could meet. So I started looking at his work and I realized that he's fucking genius. And so I'm like, wow, all of a sudden, like, oh my God, I was super, you know, moved and impressed. And so I took my paintings into my arms and I drove to LA from Kingman. to meet those guys. And so I had like 4 paintings, and so they put them on the wall to look at it, and we start chatting and stuff. And Bo's like, well, how about we give you $5,000 to keep the paintings and to start a relationship? And like I told you, I was shopping at 99-cent store. So I'm like, sure, no problem. I get the check in my hand. Honestly, when I left, I ran in the street and I went to Chase. I just cashed the check, called Patricia. I was like, we're good. We're set. It was incredible. Honestly, I couldn't believe like I would make like $5,000 for just like a bunch of paintings. So yeah, I left and they're like, well, could you produce more? And I said, sure. So it got really quick because then they sold most of those paintings that show in Montana, and then after a few weeks, Bo asked me for more paintings, and then I got introduced to Gerald Peters, and that was in 2 or 3 months because I met Logan in January, and in April I was already with Gerald Peters and start working with them, and so yeah, it got really quick.
Yeah, Logan had called me actually too, and that's how we got hooked up. I don't know if you knew.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he said, yeah, look at this guy. Yeah, you think he's good. You should take a look. And that's how we got hooked up to start showing your work.
Yeah. I remember. Yeah. Well, Logan's been amazingly helpful at the beginning, and I always gonna give him credit for that. He's really helped me because there's been that time during this first 6 months when I honestly received, I don't know, 50 phone calls from all the galleries around that are making Western stuff. They're calling me, and every time at the beginning I was super happy. Oh yeah, sure. But then after a while, I talked to Logan, and he was like, hey, be careful. We can't have too many galleries. You're going to be overwhelmed. And he really helped me kind of like deciding who I was going to work with. And even, some collectors are known. And he would tell me, don't go with those guys. These guys, because he always been there. And he took that road before me. So he was really able to advised me very, very positively, and so I'm super grateful for that. So yeah,
I think that's something that's overlooked a lot by artists, is having another mentor artist. It doesn't matter if they're younger, older, whatever. Somebody who's gone that road, somebody who knows the tracks you've got to go, because there's a lot of ways you can get screwed really quickly as an artist, especially if you get with the wrong gallery and they don't pay you, they don't do what they're supposed to do. And I think that could be one of the great takeaways from this podcast for artists that might be out there looking, that, by having somebody to give you that roadmap, I think it probably helped you tremendously. It's pretty amazing you got into Gerald Peters gallery so quickly. How did that happen? Because that's a really great gallery.
Yeah, it's a great gallery. I'm actually, it's the same. Like, I feel bad. I don't give them work. I haven't given them work in years.
That's okay. You don't give me work either, so that's fine. It happens. Occasionally you do. Occasionally you.
There's too many museum shows and stuff. Maybe one of the museum shows and stuff. But anyway, yeah, I was Peter Rice. I was at the gallery back then. Peter Rice. I don't know how to pronounce it. And so yeah, I drove to Santa Fe because Logan had talked to him as well, and I was in Santa Fe with Patricia to kind of like check it out just for the fun of it. We were traveling, and I went to the gallery and I met Peter, and he had briefly checked my Google. And back then, I remember I had a lot of like erotic photos or stuff from my previous careers, like, and he's like, I looked at Google. Be careful, if you start doing Western art, because, a lot of collectors might, be shocked about it. And I'm like, oh, really? I'm sorry. It's just the things I've done so far. And he was like, yeah, I looked at your Instagram, a couple of stuff that's interesting. And he's like, you want to come back in like a month and show me some originals? And I'm like, all right. So I went back home and I cranked like 3 paintings, I think. And I drove back on my own. I remember it was the day of my birthday, 2014. And same thing, you put them on the floor, look at them, and Like, for like 5 minutes silence. I'm like, shit, he's a piece of crap. He hates it. And he looked at me like, yeah, we can represent you. And I'm like, shit. Cool. So same, yeah, they kept the paintings. I guess they sold them pretty quick. And so yeah, that was it. And then then he left. And it was Maria J who took over. But yeah, it was fun. It's like it's that one thing, like the Disney thing. It's like you're just stoked that you get to it, but then it's like, oh shit, now I have to paint.
You got to paint. And
I have to paint.
how did you determine the style that you were going to paint in? Because I brought this up a little bit earlier, because you can paint very adroitly, loosely. And it's a different sensibility, which is amazing. And I hope to see some of those someday in big format. But how did you pick to do more of a realism? How did that strike you to do that?
So I think it's Walter Ufer's fault, and Norman Rockwell.
Yeah.
The funny thing is that my initial love for painting is John Singer Sargent and Joaquin Sorolla. I discovered those guys super early, like early art school in Paris. Discovered those guys, and that's really what got me to oil painting. And we didn't do oil painting at school, but I took it on my own and just started copying Sargent, studying Sorolla, trying to understand that like brush stroke, this violent brush stroke, especially in Sorolla's work, the outdoor stuff. It's like giant. I mean, you've seen a Sorolla in person.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So this was what I was always after, the gesture, the right color. And so yeah, when my first cowboy paintings were more like this, more, kind of like more impressionism, because that's what I naturally do. I'm more like this. But I always loved Norman Rockwell for this like super nice final life thing, and there's details everywhere. It's the opposite of impressionism. It's like, even in the corner here, there's details in that little boxes there. So the eye it's focused everywhere. So that's a total different thing. But I thought it was also a very interesting approach. It's like, why, maybe it's harder. For some reason, I felt it was a harder path. And when impressionism is easier in some way, it's like you can do a painting in a day, it's there, you can understand. There's a horse, there's a guy, there's a landscape, it's quick, the color is right, you understand it. But to go further and be like, hey, I'm gonna actually try to tighten it. I'm gonna actually try to show everything under the hat and see how it goes. And it's so much harder because you have to like bring stuff back together, get the edges more sharper, and so yeah, it's a harder path. So I don't know why. It's like I have that. This is a Christian thing to just want to like whip your back as you walk on this rocky path. I don't know why. I was like, I want to see how that goes. And I saw that Walter Ufer show at the Cowboy Hall of Fame too at the beginning. I think it was in 15. And even though now when I look at Ufer, I don't think it's that pushed. But for some reason, when I saw the show, I was like, damn, his shit's so tight and it's so fluid. And there's like, it's moving constantly. And it's that idea of trying to go further than the alla prima first thing that also a lot of Western painters do. And so, yeah, I thought maybe nobody goes further, so maybe I'm the one who's gonna go further. And I sometimes regret it because I'm making one painting when some other painters do 5.
Yeah.
But I also I feel a lot of satisfaction when it's done. And as funny as it is, on a personal level, so for the last show I did was Harson, for there's one painting I did in 2 days. I wasn't planning to do it. It was not on my, but that one day I came to the studio and I was done with the show and I saw this picture reference I had. Like, yeah, just try to crank it, just quit, just for me, just see what happens. And so I just go, and it's like 9 a.m. and at like 3 p.m. it's there. It's almost done looking. And I'm like, all right, well, it's impressionist. It's what I can do, and I'll leave it there. Maybe and I go back in the next morning, and it's there. I'm like, should I push it? Like, yeah, let's just try to push a little bit. And I'm like, no, I'll just leave it like this. And it was totally unfinished looking to me, but I was done with it. But then I showed it to a couple of people, and it was like, it's amazing. But for me, it felt totally unfinished, and I was like, I can't sell that. It's like not finished. But for some people, it's totally fine, and they love it as it is. So yeah, then I showed Ashley, and she's like, yeah, let's put it in the show. It's amazing. I love it. So we put it in the show, and somebody bought it and loved it. And when I look at it, it's a great painting. But on my personal level, it feels unfinished. And so I don't know. Now I have this problem in my head when I need to push further to feel accomplished. Okay, a painting is done. And but a lot of people tell me exactly what you told me. It's like, one day we want to see this big brush stroke on a big canvas, but I need to find the opportunity and to allow myself to do so without feeling like I'm screwing people. I'm giving them half of what they could have. You know what I mean? It's just weird.
Yeah,
it's a personal.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I see it from your point of view as a creator, but as the artist or as a consumer, as a collector, I mean, we get to decide, right? And if we like it and we go, wow, that's really something. That's all that really, in a weird way, matters. As long as you felt it was good enough to get out of your studio. And I thought some of the Taos stuff that you did, personally, for me, was some of the strongest work you've done. Period. I really did. The use of the Rio Grande blankets, which was beautiful. I could tell that you had really done your homework on the blankets. You got the colors right. You got the sensibilities right. You clearly had touched and felt and were living with these blankets, and it shows. It definitely shows. And you've now been in Taos long enough that you've gotten that sense of what Taos is, and it's a really special place, and it's a very different, unique place. So those, I'm thrilled to see what's going to come out of you over the next 10 years living in Taos. I think that, I think we've seen chapter 1, chapter 2, and now we're about to see something even, I think, maybe way more interesting than we've even seen before. And you've done some phenomenal stuff so far. You've already gotten into a lot of major museum collections and shows. You did one for the Briscoe, right? You just had a big piece that's going in the permanent collection of the Briscoe. Is that right?
Yeah. But yeah, I feel like to finish with what we were just saying, I sometimes feel also there's this whole circuit of shows and museum shows and auctions, and it's every year it's coming back, and it's nonstop, and you want to please everybody. You have a relationship with people. It's just but I have a feeling that sometimes I might have to stop for like a year or two and just get off, and to just be able to try shit out, be like, hey, I want to try this painting, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't matter. The problem that you have when you are tight with all those shows is like every time you put the brush on the canvas has to be perfect because there's a deadline. It goes to a collection, it goes to that, and it needs to be good. Yeah. And the thing is that you have to make mistake and you have to fuck up to be able to open new roads. If you're just on the freeway cruising, nothing happened. You gotta take that road on the side and go off-road, and you see this meadow that nobody saw. And it's the same when you work, when you paint, and to explore and discover new landscapes for yourself, you need to try things out, and the deadlines and everything kind of makes it hard to try that. And so you probably have to just decide, I'm off for years. So that means financial things. You have to back yourself up and know that it can be dangerous, but it's also necessary sometimes.
Yeah, that can also be great, I think, to do that. Charles Fritz did that. He spent 2 years and took it off and did Lewis and Clark and just painted paintings for 2 years, big paintings, and didn't do anything else. And You know, I could see you taking a year off and doing it. Armin Hansen did the same thing in 1921. He took a year off and just painted. And when he came back, Dixon said, "This is the best stuff you've ever done. You found a new level." And
Mhm.
so I could see that. And you know, you have this opportunity now that you're living in a new place that really lends itself to creativity. And I'd like to ask you, how did you end up in Taos? Because it's a small little city, right? I mean, you know, it's got 6,000 people or 8,000 maybe, and it's a village really. But how did you find that to be
Yeah.
your place? Because I mean, you know, I know it well.
Yeah, of course. Well, I think, I mean, a lot of Western artists are familiar with Taos because the Taos Society of Artists, and the work they produced back in the early 1900s. So yeah, I was when I saw this Walter Reefer show in Oklahoma City. That's when I discovered Taos, because that was the subject of his paintings. So from there, I took a trip to Taos, like right after. I wanted to see it with my eyes, and I wanted to, you know, see the pueblos and all that. So yeah, just got here, and like any painters would come here and flip out because of the landscapes, because, you know, the painting, the mountains you saw in the paintings, you see them in person. You know, you got that Rio Grande thing, the gorge. It's just, it's crazy. And I think, yeah, I came here. It was it's just summer. It's not even fall. But yeah, a year after we came back for fall, and then you see the yellows everywhere. It's just, yeah, it's beyond. So for, I think, yeah, the last 4 years we came pretty consistently with Petit Shot between Santa Fe and Taos. We had some good friends in Santa Fe, and so it became, starting planting that seed in our minds of like, maybe one day we leave Los Angeles and go west,
Yeah,
going
right.
east, but actually west.
That's what Dixon did. Yeah, that's right.
No, exactly. And so, I mean, to me, it was really something I wanted to do. I was dying in LA in terms of like inspiration. There's nothing related to my subject. I had to do trips, you know, all the time to refresh and reboot and get inspiration. But Patricia was working a lot there, and so it was important for her to be there. But at a certain point, she was able to, you know, decide she's going to be able to work from home, or, you know, do her own thing. And we have such a big platform with internet and Instagram that it doesn't really mean anything anymore to be in a big town. So yeah, we just decided Taos because after visiting places and spending a couple of weeks here, Taos is obviously more magic for us. And there's this rawness about Taos. There's something still very authentic feeling. And the nature is different than Santa Fe, even if it's an hour north. It's more lush, and, you know, there's more, all those rivers and streams, and we found a place that's amazing. So that also decided to, like, okay, this is it. This is the place, and this is where we're gonna live. So that's it. Just happened very, very naturally and very instinctively.
Yeah, and now we're the place you're filming right now is the Cows Sharp Museum and Historical Museum, and you're the first artist in residence there, right? What you're painting,
Yeah,
right? Yeah. Tell us a little bit about
yeah.
that.
Oh yeah. So yeah, I met Davidson Koenig, who runs the place here. I think a year ago in Jackson Hole. He contacted me sometimes before, but I'd never been able to give them paintings for that gala they were doing every year. But anyway, last year he was at my show in Trailside in Jackson Hole. We kind of quickly chatted, and he knew I was gonna come to Taos, and then, yeah, I started to text with him, and because I knew he was involved with the cows, and I knew if I was gonna move here, it might be something that I would gravitate around, and I was always very attracted by what this place represents and his story. And so I just initially contacted him in March, saying, hey, you know, is there a place? Because I knew I was gonna do some renovation, and I was like, do you think there's a place I could rent in Taos? Do you know of anything? So we started chatting about it. He's like, yeah, maybe there's like this place, you know, we have those studios and blah blah. And then I came here, and and there was no possibilities in those little studios. And so I was living here, and so I started painting my house in a little room. And then one day I was here at the Cows with him, actually, and we got to the Sharp studio, and I was already planning to do that show with Parson, and we were talking about those blankets from the collection I could use for the shoot and all that. And I was like, it'd be pretty cool. I said it as a joke. Like, imagine if I was painting those paintings of those Native Americans wearing those blankets from the Cows in that studio. It'd be fun. And he's like, dude, there's actually nobody. It's COVID. The museum is not doing any tours. Place empty. Why don't you use it? And I was like, shit, yeah, man. It sounds like a plan. And then from there, I was like, well, you know, we've always wanted to do this like artist residence program, and so maybe you can be the guinea pig for it. And I'm like, yeah, I'll take it. And so it just very, you know, naturally happened again, and super cool. So I was able to bring my stuff, start working here, and yeah, I think he's now building that program, and they're gonna try to develop it when it's possible to, you know, welcome more artists. And it's such a great place. I mean, I painted so many paintings since June here.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Like there is really an aura here, and painting in the place where some master has been before. It's just super inspiring.
Yeah, I would think you could almost channel that, you know, that feeling of what they went through and what they were doing when you're there.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I have this very crazy connection with the Taos Society of Artists, and especially at Cows, because they just released that book about cows that and Gavison gave me a copy, and I opened the book like just randomly, and the page I open it says the Parisiers Académie Julian. So, and I'm like, I knew he went to that school, but just the fact that I was sitting here in his studio and I opened the book, and it's the school I went to, and there's a whole chapter about it. And it's so funny because we're really like 100 years apart. We pretty much did the same thing, like, you know, coming west to paint. And so it's very crazy to just like think about that. And like, it's awesome. It just feels super good. Kind of validates what we're.
Yeah. And you know what? I think he would think it's very cool too. I do. I think he would think it was very.
The what?
I think Kaus would think it's very cool that you're there painting. I do.
Oh yeah.
I do. I really.
Yeah. Well, they're here. You can hear the ghosts sometimes. You know, there's the cracking floors up there. You don't know what it is. It's probably some ghost. Check in. So if I mix the colors right.
Tell me a little bit about what Patricia's doing in the new store. You guys just had a new venture that you've opened up, which sounds really interesting and unique, and I think probably is going to do extremely well in Taos. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, so that was again like something Patricia had in mind for a long time, to open a store where it could be like a platform to meet people and, you know, try to like show our vibe. So, but I was always thinking that it's a whole business on its own, and we're so busy with our respective careers that I was really not putting any energy toward doing it. But again, it's like seemed like a faraway dream, something that might happen one day. But then when we got to town, we rented a place for her to work. She's now preparing a collection of clothes with a gallerist in LA, and so she was looking for this place to work. And we get to town and we found this huge place, and it came with a front store. So initially we were like, oh, we'll take the whole thing. It's such a good deal. It was COVID, and the owner was really like looking for people to rent. So we took the whole thing. But then we were like, hey, there's a front store, like, you know, right there open on the main street. So we can just leave it closed, or maybe we push it and maybe we do this and we make this store that we've been talking about for years. So yeah, just slowly we're, you know, looked at what we have in our inventory, because I still have a lot of stuff from my vintage time, and her too. And yeah, she she put a lot of energy into it, and we hired somebody, and that now takes care of the store, and now it's his own thing. And so now we're going to Texas next week to buy stuff, because here we are, like in the vintage thing. I didn't want to, but here I am. But it's fun. It's very fun, and it's cool because a lot of people that come to visit Taos now from Instagram, they hear about the store, they want to meet us at the store. So I'm not there all the time, but sometimes, a guy would text me, he's like, hey, I'll be here. So I just go and we say hi, and then that's it. So it's exactly what he wanted. It's a vibe, just selling a couple of vintage stuff, and they're now going to sell produce of local people or friends of them. And so it's a very cool stuff. I would call it a trading post, even if it's not trading post, but there's that function of a place where you go and you feel a vibe, and you meet cool people eventually, and so that's it. It's very simple.
Yeah, and she makes her clothes. Her clothes are there, and then you have vintage clothes, and what's the name of the
it's called People of the Valley.
Yeah, that's it. People of the Valley. That's right. And do you have a website, or is it on only Instagram?
I think there is a website. There's an Instagram. It's People of the Valley Taos, and there's a website because they're pretty much selling all the stuff through the website, because there's walking, but it's COVID, so it's more limited. But yeah, there's a lot of activity through the website and the Instagram.
And if people want to see it and visit it, where is it located in Taos? Is it over by the plaza?
It's right off the plaza on Kit Carson. It's the first store on Kit Carson. There's a big place with the mural, the Cowboy Plaza.
Yeah.
So it's inside the Cowboy Plaza. It's the first store. You can't miss it.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting. And I think it was right up both of your alleys. It seems like that would be extremely.
Yeah, it's way cool. I love it. It's something that we always liked. So it's very natural. It's something to do.
Yeah, because you don't have enough to do yet.
No, exactly. But again, it doesn't take me much time, so it's pretty cool. It really is. For me, it's fine. It takes time for, Borami, the girl that works there. Yeah, she's like, full time working on, and it takes time. But for me, it's cool. Just sometimes it's just jacket I don't want to wear anymore. Like, you want to sell it in the store. It's simple.
Yeah, you should give me a call. We'll talk. I'll tell you some things that I've done, and maybe give you a few ideas that might work for you.
Sure.
We'll do it after this, but yeah, give me a call. I think there's some things I might be able to help you a little bit with on that. It sounds fantastic. Yeah, very much so. So now tell me, we're kind of finishing it up. First of all, is there anything else you want to talk about that we haven't, broached? Anything that you think is important for people to know about you or your art?
Yeah, well, I think we've been around the block pretty much, and yeah, talk about everything, and yeah, right now, like I said, I'm just, it's a little more how do you say, yeah, the COVID thing kind of like made everything a little more like shaky and unstable, and I personally enjoyed that. The deadlines a little more loose, and it kind of showed me that you don't have to run after all those deadlines, and some of the shows, if they don't have your painting, they'll survive, and everything's gonna be all right. So yeah, I kind of like decided I took a few commissions, just works more straight with people, and yeah, it's cool. It's a period where I feel like we're a little on the back road, and it's cool. That's kind of linked to what I was talking earlier about. Just trying to work more for personal stuff and not trying to always please the shows and all that. So I kind of enjoy that time, and maybe that just because I'm in Taos, and all of a sudden it feels different. But yeah, I'm excited about a bunch of paintings I'm about to do, and excited about the Briscoe thing next week. They're gonna put that painting in the permanent collection, a black cowboy painting. So that's cool, and I think there's gonna be more coming from that. I've already been in touch with other museums that are interested in integrating black cowboys in their collection. So that's cool. I'm really proud of that. Very
Yeah,
happy.
that's a great thing. I mean, you know, the black cowboys, African American, are a big part of the West. People don't realize it, but they were definitely. I mean, there's in all the ranches working as cowboys, just right along with everybody else, and nobody's really, you know, has really investigated or looked at that as a subject matter. And I think you're one of the first to do that, which is commendable, but also it's overdue, right? I think so.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was my feeling. And again, when the I think it was a time to open everybody's eyes, and it sucks that it had to go through that, like the whole BLM thing that happened this summer. I wish didn't have to happen, and I wish his story would have been different, but it's just the way it is. But for me, it was a whole awakening, and about, you know, realizing how they were not depicted in history, in art, in Western art, because that's my field. And I was like, why not? And started looking at it, and there's millions of reasons, but the result is that very few museum, and we've tracked everything. There's really no paintings of black cowboys working on cattle and all that in the museums because it hasn't been painted. So I was like, hey, I'll do it because we need to do it. You know, we need,
Yeah.
because there's going to be kids, and just because for education's sake, and for, you know, all the kids that are going to visit museums from now on, they need to face cowboy that are black. They need to see it. We need to tell them that, yeah, there was, you know, to tell them why they were black cowboys, why they need to understand that. And that start with just putting the paintings on the walls. So that was my first idea, like, hey, and I contacted Briscoe because it was the first museum that came to my mind. I was in Texas, and I was like, hey, you know, if I give you a painting, would you put it in your collection? And I said, yes. And I thought it would be harder because it's Texas and all that, and, you know,
Right.
there's politics. But no, they jumped on it, and so now, of course, a lot of museums are contacting me. You know, it's not gonna be a present every time, but I'll dare to work on it.
I think it's
But
perfect. I
yeah,
mean, you know, you're an outsider that's come to America who probably loves the culture maybe more than we do in a weird way, because you appreciate it, what it gives you. You're part of it. You've studied it, and that's the whole gamut of it, including how black, you know, cowboys are involved. And so you might be the perfect guy to do it in a very odd way. Really, I mean, it's true because you come
yeah,
from a
I've
different.
zero culture about it.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure you.
Yeah, yeah, I don't carry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was thinking I don't carry the weight of like a cultural thing that, yeah, because I come from a different place, and my nephews are black. You know, my sister is married with a black African, and I love my nephews, and that's also one thing that, you know, came to me. I was like, I don't do it just for them first place, and then for everybody else. But it's like, yeah, they need to see that, and so that was the thing that woke me up in the morning. I was like, yeah, I'm doing it. We have to do it. We have to paint more black cowboys, and I hope some other artists would do it. And we'll see. But yeah, it's a good step. I think it's a good step.
Yeah, well, you're doing it for the right reasons, and that's why it's going to be successful. You're doing it because you want to do it, not because it's a moneymaker or it's a way to show some.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, yeah,
no,
no,
it's not changing anything. You know what I mean? It's like a money maker. I mean, first of all, that painting I just did, I offered it. But then, yeah, it's not changing anything for me to paint black, white, or it's
yeah.
no difference. It's just,
Yeah.
I just think it has to be done for history and education. That's it. You know, it's like that's the number one reason.
Yeah, no, that's why it should be done, and you're doing it right.
Mhm.
So finally, is there, you know, you've had this, I would say it's one of the most interesting careers that I've ever heard of, from, especially for a Western artist. It's very different, and it's been very successful, clearly. Is there anything that you would like to share with artists that are, you know, starting this road? You know, how do they do what you've done in some form or fashion? you know, how do they keep on that track even when they're, you know, buying from the dollar store?
Mm-hmm. Well, it comes back to what we were talking at the beginning, about knowing the subject and understanding what you're doing, and not doing something just because you think it's cool, or you know, because that's gonna. Of course, we do always do that initially. I started painting the West because I thought it was cool, of course, but then you can't just do that. Like, you have to push things, you have to go further. And again, I discovered Western painting later in life, but I had 15 years of, you know, knowing other things, you know, studying other type of art and understanding, you know, cinematography, understanding photography, reading about it. So I think it's, when you want to be an artist, it's a hard path because there's a lot of artists and a lot of people want to be an artist. And so, yeah, I really encourage people to try to go deep in everything they're doing, and studying things in a broad way. And if you're going to make Western art, you can just study Western art, because you can study Chinese art. You can study, you know, like movies that were, you know, filming horses, you know, anything to try to broaden your knowledge on things, because it's going to help you doing what you're doing in a better way, and maybe in a different way than other people, because you'll have influences from other things that you actually like. And yeah, maybe that's what happened to me. Is I studied Japanese animation. I studied, you know, so many different things. So when I paint a Western scene, there's also all this, and even if it's subconscious, it's there because it's stuff I studied. So yeah, I really encourage younger artists to just be a sponge. That's what Francis Bacon was saying, like, just be a sponge, just grab everything you can in every field. Like, don't, you know, how do you say it? Don't neglect stuff that could be interesting. Just take everything you can as much as you can. So that's it.
You clearly have been a sponge. There's no doubt about it. Yeah. Mark, you're a fantastic artist, really, I think an interesting person. And,
Thank you.
you know, I'm really happy that I've been able to work with you on occasion and have this interview. I think it's an important interview for a lot of people to listen to see, chase your dreams, man. This is chasing your dreams, and you chased them and you got it. You got the, you know, the ring. And it's hard to get the ring sometimes, but you've clearly done it.
Yeah, it is. It is.
And follow him on Instagram. It's a fantastic Instagram, Mark Maggiori Instagram. I will look at it every day. There's always something cool, even if it's just painting your house.
Exactly. Cool. Well, thank you for that. It was nice. When I go back to work, I got my painting waiting, and we'll be in touch.
Yeah, call me and we'll talk about some ideas I have for your.
All right, sure.
Maybe something. Maybe
later today.
Mark, you're great. Keep painting, baby. I love it.
Bye, Mark.
All right, bye. We need your support for the Medicine Man Gallery channel, so make sure to click the subscribe button and tap the little bell icon to be notified when we upload a new video, which we do every morning on Wednesday and Friday. See you soon.